the most misunderstood portion of the bill. The bill itself actually dramatically changes the way we handle asylum so that people don't qualify for asylum initially. It also changes the timeline where right now you're released in the country for 10 years in a backlog. It flips that and actually turns that around to weeks or days to be able to turn people around. And it has an emergency authority for days like today and days like yesterday. Yesterday, we had 6,500 people that crossed the border illegally yesterday. If this law would have been in place, all of those folks would have been turned around. Instead, they were all released into the country. So people misunderstand this. They think this is about counting the first 5,000 and then stopping everyone else after that. Well, that's ridiculous. We would never, ever support that. This is about having a threshold to say we're exceeding our capacity to be able to manage.
Well, Senator, why would you have the threshold that darn high? Why would the threshold be 5,000?
You got too many people, deport all of them.
Senator, why is the threshold so high? Why is it 5,000? Why not 1,000? Or 2,000, or 3,000, or 4,000.
I'm actually working with a Democrat Senate and a Democrat White House. What I was looking for is an authority that's going to catch most every day. We've had only 7 days in the last 4 months that were less than 5,000, which means this border would have been closed down all of the last 4 months in the way that it was actually built. Instead of having 1 million people in, we'd have had 1 million people actually deported.
Senator, to me, this border bill, again, it just came out last night. Chuck Schumer says there could be a vote by Wednesday. We're talking about, as Charlotte said, 370 pages, but it reads like a bill that you would write, and I get that you're working with your colleagues across the aisle, but it reads like a bill that you would write in anticipation of a future border crisis, not the current calamity that we're dealing with. Breitbart said that the White House and Democrats used Alejandro Mayorkas as a sounding board for some of the language in this bill. And I'm just wondering how you can, in good conscience, put a bill forward and expect Republicans in the House to vote for this when Alejandro Mayorkas helped author portions of the bill.
Yeah, Mayorkas is not writing this bill. We were writing the bill and trying to be able to negotiate this together on it. Obviously, we want to be able to stop the chaos of the border. We had the worst month ever in the history of the country in December. The response to that is changing how we handle asylum, doing our Indian catch and release, doing a new system where we don't have this 10-year backlog. We quickly turn people around, building more wall, adding more detention beds, doubling the deportation flights. I mean, it is a dramatic shift, and people are focused on 1 or 2 areas and saying, I don't like that area, and they're ignoring all of the rest of it and literally saying, I'd rather do nothing. Now, I have had folks that have said the president has authority to do, and he's not doing it. That is 100% true. Biden is not using the authorities he currently has. But I would also remind folks during the Trump administration, we also had days of more than 4,000 people that were illegally crossing the border under the Trump administration in 2019, and they were struggling because there's gaps and loopholes in the law.
Yeah, but Senator, you know, Donald Trump, we were at a 45-year low in illegal crossings under Donald Trump, and that's just a fact. I've got the evidence to
dramatically fewer.
A 45-year low under Donald Trump in 2019.
We also had days of 3,000, 4,000, 4,500 that were happening.
But nothing like what we've seen right now. Okay, let me just
trying to figure out how to be able to implement it.
Okay, I'm sorry to talk over you, Senator. I think we might have a little bit of a delay. But why is there $10 billion in this bill? Again, $20 billion goes to the U.S. southern border, $60 billion for Ukraine, $10 billion for Gaza in the West Bank. This sounds like a Gaza-Ukraine bill to me, not a southern border bill. No, that's not true.
No, that is absolutely not true. There's not $10 billion for Gaza that's in this bill.
I'm reading $10 billion for Gaza in the West Bank in this bill.
Yeah, but one of the things that's also in this bill is cutting off the UN agency, UNRWA, to be able to make sure they're not only not giving aid in this part, but they're excluded entirely. It is one of the things Republicans have tried to get for a very long time. Now, that's not an area I negotiated. That's another group that was actually negotiating that. But that's a very significant shift to be able to cut off this UN agency that President Trump cut off, that this would actually cut off long term.
What about people that are coming here that are on the terror watch list? Do they get deported?
They do. Right now, the folks that are on the terror watch list are actually picked up and they're deported. But what is not being counted is the folks that are what's called a national security risk. These are folks that live in those areas. We don't have any information about them. Those are all being released. Under this bill, those individuals would all be deported. Again, this bill has a radical shift in how we're actually handling immigration, and I think people need to be able to see the whole thing. The alternatives are do nothing or to try to do as much as we can possibly get through this White House to be able to make changes in asylum rules, to make changes in what's happening at the border, add more dollars, to be able to build more wall, do all of those things to be able to do as much as we can possibly get done now, looking forward to a new president. But we can't just think about a year from now. We've got to think about 10 years from now, 15 years from now. what new policy needs to be in place to make a difference.
This bill would end catch and release. Why not force catch and release to be re-implemented along with remain in Mexico and get us back to where we were when Donald Trump left office, wait 9 months, and then hope that a Republican wins the White House and really pass something substantive when it comes to the southern border? I'm reading the estimates here, Senator. Many of these policies are going to take up to 3 years to implement. That puts us in 2027, which is right up against the 2028 election. This seems like such a favorable bill to the Democrats.
Oh, no, sir. I would completely disagree with that. For instance, that border emergency authority, that kicks in day one. So that is not 3 years out in the future. That means the 6,500 people that came in yesterday, we either have the decision to let 6,500 in more tomorrow or to be able to have border emergency authority that deports all of them the very next day. So, again, the focus of this is what can we implement right now? There are things that do take a while. It takes a while to hire staff. It takes a while to be able to get things up to speed. You can't hire several thousand staff in 2 days and to be able to have them trained and ready and to be on the line.
Yeah, but 3 years is a long time. My goodness. Just quickly, $650 million for the southern wall to continue construction. That puts us, these are estimates, but that puts us at about 50 more miles of border wall. Doesn't seem like enough when we see images like this every single day all across our 2,000-mile long southern border with Mexico.
So that $650 million is about to expire. That's the money that was left over from the Trump administration time period. We actually protect that for the next administration. So we guard that off rather than having Biden waste it to be able to have that available for day one for the next administration. You're right. It doesn't complete everything. We usually do the wall in about $1 billion or $500 million chunks at a time. You don't allocate $100 billion all at once and say, we're going to try to finish this out. You do it section by section by section. That's the same way Trump does it. That's the same way we would do it now, but we're trying to actually protect those dollars from being wasted, but actually use them to actually do construction. So that's why that's set up that way.
I see. And then, Senator, you've got to convince the American people. I understand it's going to be in the Senate maybe this week for a vote. How do you convince Republicans in the House to vote for this?
Yeah, I think there's a mixture there. There are some folks in the House and in the Senate that are saying, hey, I don't want to do anything because if we fix the border now or if we make change in the border now, it hurts Trump in his election. So they're focused on the political issues rather than the national security issues. I get that. There's some that say, I want a lot more than what we actually got. But what we're getting in a Democrat Senate and with a Democrat president is a dramatic shift in the asylum laws, closing off those loopholes that have been a problem for President Trump in the past and certainly have been an issue for this president because he's chosen not to enforce the law. But I want people to be able to read it, review it, not just go off a Facebook post that they see, but to actually see the real details. I think that will make a difference. And to say, should we do nothing and then just hope this gets better, or should we do as much as we can possibly do, then go back and get more? I'm of the method to say, let's get as much as we can now, then let's go back and get more, rather than just sit around and do nothing.
Yeah.
Senator, just about 15 seconds. What's your response to Mike Johnson saying that this is dead on arrival?
Yeah, let's let the House and the Senate, let's actually work this out. Let's not do nothing. Let's actually figure it out. If there's a part you don't like, then let's have an amendment. Let's take that out. If there's a part that you want to add, let's add it in. But if we sit and do nothing and allow millions of people to come in and allow a national security crisis that we've all called a national security crisis to just keep going, I think that's our problem.
And Senator, have you talked to Mike Johnson since he tweeted this out? I've seen enough. He says the bill is even worse than expected. Have you talked to him since last night?
Yeah, we've had some communication back and forth on it. We'll continue to be able to talk. My focus is let's edit what we need to edit. Let's have amendments. Let's actually open the process up. Let's fix what we can, but let's not just do nothing. That's the worst case scenario for the future of the American people.
All right. Senator Lankford, thank you so much for taking